What is up, gang? Andrew with Pride. Today we're going to be answering a question that a client gave me about motivation, how to stay motivated, how to get motivated. And although this applies to the gym, this also applies to a ton of other shit. So let's get to it. What's going on, everybody? Andrew with Pride. I don't know how long this episode is going to be because this was actually a pretty potentially simple question that a client asked me. But I think it reaches out a little bit further than just me. And that is essentially the question of what keeps me motivated. I'm not going to necessarily talk about me too much in that regard because I don't think it matters, but I suppose maybe it can be applied to other people and different kinds of things. Because when she asked it to me, it was, how do I stay motivated to go to the gym? And the thing is, it's not hard for me anymore. It's something I have been doing for 12, 14, 15 years, something like that. I don't know, man. Like, I was on and off in high school. But yeah, it's been a while, suffice to say. And I don't really have to try anymore to go to the gym. Sometimes I suppose I have to try to push myself a little harder or take myself to a next level, but just staying generally fit and healthy is easy for me. And the reason that this question came up is because she was looking at one of the other coaches at my gym, and she goes, man, it's got to be like a sickness or something to want to be like that, because this guy's in his mid-30s and he's about to cut to do a bodybuilding show again, which to her is, a sickness. It's just insanity, basically. And, I said, well, why do you think it is that he's doing it? And she goes, no, I don't know. And I said, well, if you took a guess, what would you think? And she was just like, he probably feels like he needs to be big for some reason. And I was like, yeah, I think that's probably true. And, then I was like, well, for me, it is definitely an aspect of when I was in high school. I've said this a million times. I was 6'3", 140 pounds. I was really fucking skinny. And honestly, the thing that always motivated me was getting a girlfriend. And then it became all the people who told me I wasn't going to stick to it. So then it becomes, oh, fuck you, I want to prove you wrong. And then it becomes, oh, I want to be this kind of a person for my partner. Now, a lot of people might hear those things and go, that's outside of you. Those are extrinsic motivations. If you listen to the podcast in the really early episodes with Dustin and I, you'll remember one of those episodes we talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, or internal and external motivation. And all of those things are, to a degree, outside of me. I am motivated in that example to be fit and healthy enough looking that someone I want to be with would also want to be with me, to whatever degree that is. But it's not necessarily that. It is, I have an idea of the person that I am going to be with in my life, and I need to feel good enough about myself, or I need to be a high enough quality person, have a certain physique, have a certain kind of lifestyle, have a certain kind of business, whatever it may be, to actually attract that person and bring them into my life, right? And maybe people think that is, I don't know, vain or something like that, but it is what it is. We tend to seek people out who are in our quote league, or hopefully a little bit higher than that. But anyway, I'm circling all over the place with this one. It's not that I'm motivated to stay in the gym and to stay healthy and all those things because of other people, but it's because of different kinds of things that have happened in my life that makes me want to be stronger. It makes me want to be healthy. In the case of this other trainer, he was bigger than I was, he was bigger than I am right now when he was 18. Just fucking huge. So when it finally circled back to that question of, why do you think he's doing this? She said, well, he probably still doesn't think he's muscular, or doesn't think that he's good enough because he hasn't gotten a pro card, or doesn't think he's good enough because he hasn't been able to say, ha, see, fuck you, I did it. Like, I succeeded at that thing that he'd been talking about for doing for years. when people talk about motivation and, how you stay motivated, a lot of times people will focus on like that burn the boats mentality, which if you don't know what that is, it's this idea of, if you want to stay motivated to do something, there needs to be no other option. So if we were going to use bodybuilding as an example, if somebody wants to be a pro bodybuilder, how do you stay motivated to do that? How do you force yourself in some way to actually do that? Well, potentially that is, and this is not advice, do not do this, but potentially that is you quitting your job and making it so the only option for you that year is to win, to get your pro card, and to get a bunch of endorsements and sponsorships and yada, yada. And it honestly does not work that easy. It does still take time even after you get a pro card. But Glenn and I, say hello, Glenn.
Hey, what's up?
You remember all the stuff so Glenn and I met in high school, and then we reconnected through a multi-level marketing program, aka a pyramid scheme, aka Amway. Do you remember all the different things that they would do to essentially pin you into a corner where it was like, no matter what, you've got to succeed? Like they would be like, hey, if you need to, they would talk about it where people would quit their jobs when they were close to reaching like a certain level, because it's like, okay, now you have to find those people. You have to build that team up so they make enough money, right?
Absolutely.
And like the thing is, to an extent, that does work. But you still have to have all the pieces there to make that happen. So like, again, let's say your goal is to be a professional bodybuilder. If it's not a realistic one, or if it's not a realistic thing for you to do, if you just don't have the genetics, you don't have the frame, you don't have the whatever, it doesn't matter if you quit your job and make bodybuilding your only option, if it's just an impossibility. The burn the boats mentality doesn't always work with health and fitness, but one way that it can work is these people where they're getting into the gym because they're unhealthy. It's okay, I need to lose this weight or I'm going to fucking die. Like that is a burn the boats mentality, basically against your will. There is no other choice. You're going to die if you don't get healthy. It's tough to say what the thing is that's going to keep people motivated. And it's tough to say how you find that for yourself. A lot of people do find motivation and drive in traumas or fears. There's that belief out there. People are more motivated by pain than they are by pleasure. So there was even a study where it was, I'm not going to remember this exactly, but there was a study where they give people it was like $1,000 or something at the beginning of the school year. And at the end of the year, they would take it away if they didn't have a certain grade. And then there was another group of people where they said, you will get $1,000 at the end of the year if you get a certain grade. So half of them are given it, half of them will be given it at the end of the year. And the people who were given the $1,000 right away actually ended up getting better grades because they were more upset at the idea of having to give $1,000 back than the people were motivated to get the $1,000, right? So is there a way to use that for yourself? I don't know. I have no idea. Motivation's a really wonky thing. Sometimes it is a matter of this thing has to happen or your life is going to fall apart. And there's not very many ways that you can apply that to health and fitness, unfortunately, outside of, are you going to die? Or, you know what, I'll kind of wrap it up with this. One of the best motivators that I've actually seen for people, and this has been a case for me in my life 3 times, there's the joke out there, breakups make bodybuilders. And a lot of the big bodybuilders out there, the pros, the people who are on their way to being pros, they always talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, then I broke up with, my partner and, boom, they end up like going crazy or going ham. I can't tell you how many of my friends hopped on a massive steroid cycle right after going through a breakup. And again, this is not me recommending that you do this, but with that breakup thing, that does wane, that does fade occasionally. At some point in time, all of these things are going to basically fade in the quality or the intensity with which they motivate you. And going back to the idea of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, this is where the long-term versus the short-term exists, is if you're finding things outside of you, it's achieve this physique, get the girl, get healthy, whatever. All those things have a perceived endpoint. But when it becomes, why are you doing this? Because that's just who I am. The motivation isn't necessary anymore. It's not a matter of hyping yourself up and making things happen in your life that are going to get you to push you over that edge to where you actually go to the gym. Like I said, I don't have to think about it. But then there are certain aspects of health and wellness that I do have to think about. It is tough for me to go to bed on time. It is tough for me to wake up on time. I'm still trying to find that motivation for myself where it's get up on time no matter what. So I think that's kind of that, guys. A little circular because it essentially comes down to, well, it depends, as with anything, but those are a few ways that you can kind of find out what's going to motivate you. What is something that scares the shit out of you if you don't get it? What is something that really motivates you because it scares, something that really motivates you because not having that is going to be fucking terrible or detrimental for you in some way. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. I also think I just said the same thing in two different ways, but y'all get what I mean. Anyway, I think that's that, guys. So yeah, until next time, my name's Andrew with Pride, and see y'all later.